I'm comfy.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for being on the show today, Twon, because it's an honor to have you here. You're the host of the first open mic I ever went to. So.
What one was that?
It was, what's the name of the place on Lark?
Pint Size?
It was Pint Size, 2019, I think, or no, December. It was early December, and I went way too dark, and it was terrible. But that's how first open mic should be.
Yeah, my first one was like, I don't know, I prepared very well, more than I have for anything that I've ever prepared for. Like for 3 weeks I wrote out a 5-minute set, I thought, but it was 3.5 minutes, and I just mumbled the whole time. And then afterwards some old men came up and they were like, how long you been doing comedy? And I was like, this is my first time. And they're just like, oh man. And then I didn't see them anymore.
Yeah.
So hopefully I made them quit.
Well, I mean, how long were you writing the 3.5 minutes that you worked on? Like, were you thinking about doing it for a really long time?
Yeah, so I lived in LA in 2014.
Oh, okay.
And I went to, like, when I lived in Albany, I would just go to punk shows, but I didn't know any punks in LA. And I ended up meeting some comedians that skateboarded, and they were like, yeah, I run this comedy show, you should come. And I was like, okay, free comedy show, whatever. And you hear free comedy show, and you're like, this is gonna suck. And I show up, and it's like, the host goes up, and then Kumail Nanjiani goes up, and then Jen Kirkman goes up, and then Mark Maron goes up, and it was a free show in like a loft apartment. And that was like, I was like, this is insane.
Yeah.
And like, I started writing jokes back then, but I never really did anything with it, you know? I was like, I could do this, and then I was like, I can't do this, these jokes suck. And then it took me like 5 years. No. Yeah, like 5 years to actually get on stage.
Wow. Yeah, I think I was writing for maybe like 2 years before, just like ideas down in a phone, which was what I suggest to people who say like, oh, I'm interested. I mean, is that what you say?
Yeah, well, when people are interested, I usually try to talk them out of it. But if they really want it, then they'll fight for it. I don't know, people say that I'm like really mean, but I don't know, it's just like weeding out people that are gonna like either like quit immediately or just like not do the thing that they're intending on doing, which is like the whole idea is to like entertain and get laughs. And like if you're just going up and like you've seen it 100 times, just like a comic goes up and they tell a very boring story about nothing, you're like, yeah, I'm Seinfeld now, and it's like, no dude, you're not. You're like wasting everybody's time. And there are people that will come watch just an open mic and they won't want to come back because they're like, oh, this is bad.
Okay.
Like
that's fair, and I agree with you. Like, I don't think you're mean, because I just think you're blunt, and I think it's good for comedians to get that. Like, I think if you come to the show and don't want your feelings hurt,
yeah,
then you don't want to be a better comedian.
So I hurt their feelings first.
Yeah, it's good. You've never done it in a malicious way, but like the way you, like early on, whenever I heard you have a comment about anything at an open mic, it was usually pretty constructive.
Yeah.
But it's just you're blunt, which I think is good. I can remember a particular comic who was telling long, boring stories, and you were the first one to be a little rough on him, but he like stuck around through it, and I feel like he's grown a lot through it. So I definitely.
You're talking about Ed Colson?
No, Ed's been around before me,
yeah,
so I don't even know him so much, but I don't know. I think it's good for the scene. I don't think it's anything personal, so I hate when people take that kind of thing personally. I was gonna say though that, like, oh, do you think having bad comedians mixed in helps the scene just with more activity? But I definitely can see what you say. Like, what you mean by the show being worse, so less audience members?
Well, what sucks about it is that, like, there is always going to be, like, the group of worst comics, and, like, I'm not the best comic in the world. I'm, like, very low on that scale, but in Albany, I feel like I can definitely speak for this, I guess. So, like, there's, like, a group of bad comics, and then there's a group of okay comics, and the okay comics get on all of the local shows, but then the same people come out to the local shows. It's like, all right, I already saw this guy. Can I see somebody else? It's like, we don't want to show you the other guys, you know? Because it's just like, the bad comics, they're not really trying. Like, some people do comedy for 2 weeks, and they're like, can I get on your show? And it's like, no.
Yeah. I think it takes years to, like... I don't think... Coming from music, I never would have thought, like, ask to get on shows. I would just think open mic. Like, that's...
Yeah.
That sounds like the plan to me.
It's different than music, though, because, like, with a band, it's like you have to do shows, and it's like it doesn't really matter. Like, your set isn't as important as a band, and you do it far less.
Yeah.
But if, like, you can have, like, a couple of good shows and then record and then take off from there. Not even take off, it's just, like, even bands that are, like, really, really good aren't going to reach any kind of level of, like rock bands or whatever. Like, nobody's getting the Stones treatment or the Beatles treatment ever again, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, like, a rock and roll band's going to play with other rock and roll bands and just, like, kind of just make friends with the other bands throughout the country, depending on how far they can take it. Or, like, comedy, I forgot where I was going with this.
Yeah.
Oh, well, so you have to do it more often, and you have to practice every night. And, yeah, I don't know, like...
And you can't practice without people.
You can't practice without people, but, like, you can play a show for 3 people and record an awesome album, you know?
Yeah.
You don't need the audience necessarily. Like, I have a friend, he has a band, and they're really, really good, but they don't play often. And somebody was like, that's like a fake band. They're just doing it for style. It's like, they have, like, a really well-recorded album with, like, a lot of hits. They just don't play out. It's like a good
It's a
band.
project.
Yeah.
And then you're a musician, and you have projects.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems pretty reasonable.
But if you're a comic that plays twice, then you're not a comic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess it's also it's hard to get the practice as a comic because you have to do it in front of people, and for the most part, you know. I mean, I don't know. Do you practice anyway on your own, like?
Yeah, sometimes I will.
Like Mark Norman will say, like, "Oh, I practice into a hairbrush or something."
I can't do that mirror thing that people do, but I will practice on my grandma or something. You know, like I'll show up and just like try like a bit out, and if she like reacts at all, I'm like, all right, maybe that's something. Not like always my grandma, but just like if I'm talking to somebody, I'll try it conversationally, and then it's like, oh, this is a good premise. I'll work on this.
Yeah. Sometimes I think of a premise, and then I try it out, and it's like they don't know what I'm talking about.
They don't know what
I'm not going to say
about,
this to people.
I need the context of my grandma.
Yeah.
She should come to more shows.
Yeah, mine too. Well, all right. There's a lot of different directions I can go with the interview. I'm sorry about the fruit flies, by the way. Yeah.
I think this is one.
There's only a few left, but anyways, who are some of your favorite interviewers? Like what kind of interview do you like?
Well, I listen to WTF a lot. Mark Maron's like definitely the entire reason that like I'm into stand up, really, because like I started listening to that when I lived in LA. Like,
were you into it before you saw the show?
The TV show?
The free show that he was on.
Oh no! So that was like kind of. So basically, I saw the Netflix poster for his TV show on Netflix, and I was like, what is this? I don't want to watch this. This guy looks like a douche. I can't swear, probably.
I don't know if douche is a swear, but you can't. So don't say any other words, and we're going to roll the dice with douche.
Yeah. So then, I saw him on the Netflix thing, and I was like, this guy looks like he sucks. And then he was on like one episode of Louie, and I was like, okay, maybe I like this guy. So I watched that, and then like 2 weeks later, I ended up seeing him live, and like was listening to his podcast like right before that.
Yeah.
Like just like within a 2 week period, found out about him, saw him, and then like just like really went in. But that's just like that podcast is like the history of comedy, kind of. There's just like there's so much to learn from if you go back to like all of the comedian episodes, like the actor ones I can skip, and the music ones I can skip. I don't always, but the comedy ones are awesome. They're so good.
Yeah, I do the same thing with like him and like Rogan or like whoever goes way back like that. It's like they have on a lot of great guests that say informative stuff. And like on YouTube, it's like, oh, Opie and Anthony or
Yeah.
I mean, Opie and Anthony's still.
Yeah, I never really listened to that. I've just like
still,
I've seen like clips.
Yeah, exactly. Same.
I'll actually sit down and listen to every episode of WTF. But then there's like I like comedy and I like laughing, but I don't really like that in a podcast interview. Like, I really like Comedy Bang Bang, the TV show.
Don't know.
Oh, really? It's really, really funny. But then they have a podcast, Comedy Bang Bang, and it's good. And it has, like, every comic that you love being hilarious. But I'm, like, more obsessed with the history of comedy than the jokes involved, I guess.
I guess I like both equally, but yeah. I see what you're saying. You ever listen to any interviews by Nardwuar?
Nardwuar.
Nardwuar is the greatest interview of all time, in my opinion. And he's way into punk rock. You love him.
Yeah.
He does punk rock and hip hop people and some comedians, and he's like the most like an interviewer has a character that I've ever seen. Like it's wild. Yeah, I'll show it to you later.
Where is he from?
Canada.
Oh.
Yeah. Are there any interviewers who you particularly dislike?
Joe Rogan.
You dislike Joe Rogan?
I like adamantly dislike people that are like my dad, I guess. Man, I don't think he's really like my dad. They dress the same, they look the same. They have the same ideals, I guess. Yeah. Nah, I mean, I'm just not down with that.
Yeah, I like Rogan. I definitely like get a lot of people's complaints, especially. I mean, like I disagree with a lot of his opinions, but I also agree with a lot of them and love a lot of his stand up. But also like as a listener, like for his podcast, it's a great wealth of just information and disinformation, I guess. Yeah. But also like for comedy history, like I like it more for the comedians, but I do feel like he repeats himself a lot because he's so into like one thing he'll say in like 5 different episodes.
Yeah, for like 5 hours too, right? Aren't they like
3-hour episodes?
That's ridiculous.
I mean, if I like the comedian, I like the long episode, but you know, that's cool though. I don't like.
I'm judging.
Yeah. So, as far as you know it. Can you give me a little bit of like a history of the Albany scene? I mean, you're kind of like an Albany comedy sage at this point. I mean, like
I like became the guy in recent years, so like there was like a drop off. It was weird when I showed up. Everybody was like a nerd, and like all the comics that are still around that were here before me weren't going up as much when I started going up, and like there had already been like. Since I started, there's already been, like, a group that's come and gone, like, started and quit, you know? But there was, like, a very, like, nerdy, like, what you expect from open micers, I guess. There's, like, not a lot of, I don't know, what's the word? There's nobody, like, fighting for their, that's not the right, what is it? What are words? This is a terrible interview now. No, I mean, there's just
got very philosophical. I think the interview's branching out really well. Actually.
Thank you. I feel like when I showed up, nobody was really trying to do a DIY kind of thing. There was like a couple of like older dudes that like would run some shows, but other than that, there wasn't much to look at. Like there was just the mics, and like I would go up with my weird dark jokes, and then people would be like, "What are you talking about?" I'd be like, I don't know, like, I'm just talking how I normally talk, and it was just like, I don't know, it was so weird to show up and people had no idea, and it, like, when I showed up, there was no scumbags, and then when I started going up, I think they felt welcome.
Oh no, like scumbag comics or audience members?
No, just like people who have like lived. You know, it was just like a lot of 9-to-5ers that like don't.
Oh, the good kind of scumbags.
Yeah,
who like actually are loose enough to
just like
with the comedy.
Worldly people, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
It was like people that like, all right, I'm gonna go work at the office. I'm gonna go to the open mic. Then I'm gonna go home. And then I'm gonna wake up, go to the office, and then. But like now, there's like a lot more people that are just like, I don't know, like people who have like partied, people who have been in fights. That was a big one. It's like I had like a story about getting in a fight. People were like, "Are you a psycho?" And it's like, "No, dude, I just like go to shows."
Yeah.
Like music shows, and it's like you might punch someone, somebody might punch you. That sounds crazy when you say it out loud.
Well, you seem a little more ready for it than me, but you've been to more punk shows than me.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else you got in the history of the comedy scene, but I also want to know a little bit about your experience with the punk scene around here. Anything else about the comedy scene?
Yeah. So like, there's Tommy McGuire. He was hosting the mic at Lark Tavern for like years, and I knew him through skateboarding, just like barely. So I was like, "Hey, is that still going on?" And then like, yeah, I don't know. I just like it took me like 2 or 3 weeks to show up, but then I showed up, and now I've just been in it like every day since. It's been like no other thought in my mind,
Yeah.
So now I'm just like ingrained in it.
So how do your other passions stack up to that then? Like you have your own band. You obviously still skateboard a lot. Like are they just like way below that or?
No, so like it comes in waves. So I am in a band. It used to be called the Early Grabs, and then we had to like kick this dude out because he was like going to rehab or whatever. And then we stopped. That was like a skate punk band, and then we started like a new band, which was just the same band with a new guitarist called Moribund. And that one's like a love letter to British punk, like UK82. Okay. There's like every song sounds kind of like a band that we like from England, and like I sing in a British accent.
Okay.
Yeah. And then skateboarding and music. So like we were late to every show we had because we'd be skating before the show, and like that was like fun, and we were partying and whatever. But then, yeah, I don't know. Comedy is different. Comedy is like, oh, it's just me. I don't have to rely on anybody. If I'm late, then it kind of sucks. So I better show up early. And like I didn't skate or do any music really for like the first year of comedy. I was just like comedy. And now it's starting to like balance out. Like I skate a lot more, and we just started playing shows again.
Yeah.
But also like I've been doing less comedy since like I put in a bunch of work, and like I have a bunch of time now. So like if I get a show, I'll do a show, but like I'm skipping mics more often, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, it's been tough for me to hit mics lately. I mean, you're way past me as far as, I mean, not just experience, but dedication, because I'm in it with like music shit, so it's hard for me to make it out to things, but it's nice having that like other stuff too. So I got you. My brother skateboarded when I was younger. There was a lot of I had a lot of skater hand-me-downs, but I was a poser at that because I never really learned to skate.
You show up to school with ripped shoes, and they're like, "You skate?" And I was like, "No."
No, I'm just poor.
Yeah, my clothes are just ripped.
No, I like that stuff, but I was just too much of a little pussy in elementary school and middle school to be doing that stuff. But I did get really into punk rock and ska and whatever, and like middle school and into high school. So I definitely want to revisit the punk scene. I mean, you said your band is like an homage to British punk bands. So for me, stuff that I used to be into was like, I mean, obviously I listened to like the Sex Pistols and the Clash and everything, but I was more into like the Subhumans, Crass, Rudimentary P9. You know these bands?
That's a good list. Yeah, so like ours is like kind of, there's like a little bit of Cockney Rejects, but a lot of Discharge. I don't know if you know Discharge.
Nope, don't know.
Discharge is
I've
sick.
heard of them, but
I'm not a musician, I just sing, but the drum beat is called D beat, and that's like theirs. It's the Discharge beat, so it's like that beat came from them, and there's like a couple of songs we have with that, and there's like one song that sounds like Maiden, like first album, Iron Maiden.
Yeah, I never got too deep into Iron Maiden.
Don't go deep. First album is really good, and then I don't know too much of the history. Like I'm kind of a poser, because like I know everything about comedy. I don't know skateboarders by name. I don't know musicians by name. I don't know anything about anything else. But first album, Iron Maiden, they had one singer, and then I guess they kicked him out and had a different singer from there on out. But the first album is without a doubt the best. It's so sick.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that English stuff aside, loved all that stuff. But what I was like really more into, I mean, definitely a lot of like New York and DC punk, but mostly West Coast. Like the Minutemen are my favorite.
I met Mike Watt once.
Oh my god, I would love to meet Mike Watt. He was like my first
hero
bass
on
guy. Bass. Yeah. So like the Minutemen, and then after them I'd say the Dead Milkmen.
Yeah.
And then probably like Dead Kennedys, Black Flag. So yeah, a lot of West Coast kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, I like the West Coast. Like I was obsessed with the Germs.
Oh yeah, I love the Germs.
It was crazy. Like when I was moving to LA, there was like the singer of this band, White Flag, had died.
I never got into them, but I definitely heard them.
Yeah, I've heard. I don't know anything about him. I just know that the singer died, and they had like a benefit show to pay for his funeral, and they got the Germs back together with Shane West, who played Darby Crash in the movie about the Germs.
Oh shit.
To sing, and it was like Shane West, Pat Smear, who's like Germs, Foo Fighters, Nirvana, and then Don Bowles was a drummer, and they couldn't find the chick that was the bassist, Lorna Doone, after the Cookies.
Yeah, I can't remember all their names.
But yeah, they couldn't find her, so they got the bass player from the Go-Go's to come fill in, and like I moved to LA, and then that day that I moved there, I got to go see the Fake Germs and the Adolescents, and there's like a bunch of bands that played. It was awesome. It was really
that's cool.
Quite a show.
What was your first show? Punk show.
First punk show.
Mosh pit and everything.
It might have been. Well, I saw CKY when I was like 13 because Viva La Bam was on and they were selling a lot of tickets because of that.
My brothers used to be into that stuff. I never.
But that's like sludgy metal. But first punk show I think was Flogging Molly.
Okay. Yeah, I was never really into the Celtic thing either.
Altamont Fairgrounds.
Okay.
They had like that 1-6 song, Drunken Lullabies, and the music video was like a dude like skating down the street really fast. So like I was like 15 and like hyped on it, but my friend was like, "You want to go see Flogging Molly later? My dad's gonna take us." And I was like, "Yeah, cool." He's like, "It's $25," and I was like, "I don't have that." And I was scared to ask my dad for money, and I was like, "Hey, could I have money to go see a band?" And he was like, "With who?" And like the guy's dad who I was gonna go with was like the most responsible dad of all of my friends. So he was like, "Yeah, okay." And we went and
punched in the face, punched in the face, punched in the face.
No.
Oh.
So we were standing there watching, and this guy, it was like a very stereotypical Irish band to see. So everybody's wearing those like golf hats. And like it's just like
Nardwuar wears one of those.
Yeah, those golf hats and the thick chin straps. It was just a very Irish looking event. This guy in one of those hats is standing next to us. He just like walks up, standing next to us. He's like, "How old are you kids?" We're like 15. He's like, "Well, I got 2 of these," and he hands us a beer to share, and that was our first beer.
Wow, what a magical show.
Yeah, but yeah, then we like jumped around in the mosh pit. It was like one of those run in a circle pits though.
Oh.
It wasn't too violent. But when I was in LA, I saw the Angry Samoans in JFA.
Yeah.
You know JFA?
No, just the Angry Samoans.
Yeah, they're sick, Angry Samoans. But JFA is like an old skate punk band, like so fast, so sick. It's like really good. Like surf rocky, but harder.
Okay.
So JFA played first, and then the Angry Samoans were going to play. But I'm in like the pit thing, and I'm just like doing the running around in a circle kind of. And there's some like big tough guy standing at like the edge of the circle, and he's just punching into the circle, and he punched me in the back so hard that I had to leave. Didn't get to see the Angry Samoans, and I couldn't walk for like 3 days.
You were the Angry Samoan that night.
Yeah.
Well, my first show was over in the St. Rose Quad for like Rose Rock when I was in like 9th grade or 10th grade or something. My brother Dave took me to see Streetlight Manifesto there.
I remember that.
Yep,
I didn't go, but I remember it happening.
I was in the pit for like the whole like hour set they did, and it was pretty awesome. It was a good show.
My friend's dad, my like friend from high school's dad, saw the Clash play that, the St. Rose thing.
Really? Rose rock?
Yeah, there's like weird. If you like do a deep dive on YouTube, you can find some weird videos. But there's one, Lincoln Park in Albany.
Oh,
it's like
at first I thought you were going to say the
not
band,
the
and then
band.
you said in Albany. I'm like, yes, but where?
It's
is
like
that?
Downtown. It's like equal to where the plaza is, but like south. And there's like a big dip there's like a big dip, and it's like a football field that's like in a giant hole.
Okay, I don't think I've been
Well,
there, but I've seen it on maps.
The Ramones played there in the 90s.
Okay. God damn it, I just swore again. I gotta make another note. Keeps making me say, oh shit, all these cool facts you got.
Yeah, I have some cool facts. Man, I saw Rancid.
Nice.
I think that was
Matt Friedman, another amazing bassist.
the second punk show I went to. Was Rancid at Northern Lights.
You know NoFX?
Yeah, so I was really into NoFX for like 3 years.
One of my first albums I ever bought.
And then I saw them live, and it was a lot of fun. Like, they did the whole thing. Like, there was like a guy crowd surfing.
They suck live.
Oh, I mean, I had a blast. They're playing all the songs that everybody knows, so everybody's singing along.
Yeah.
Nobody's actually listening.
Well,
It's just like, it's the crowd doing karaoke at the band.
Well, isn't their live albums? Their live albums are called like I heard they suck live or something.
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
it is.
I think that's what it is. But I thought they were being honest. But I love NoFX.
Well, I saw them live, and then I was like, yeah, I'm good now.
Yeah.
And I never listened to them again.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But like, I enjoyed the live show. I was just like, that was like the end of NoFX for me. I was like, yeah, all right, that's over. That was sick though. I saw So I got another story.
You good? Go.
I was going to Rye Fest in Brooklyn to see the Descendants.
Nice.
In 2012, and the first band played. I don't even remember who, but first band played, and then they were like, "There's a tornado going through Brooklyn. Everybody has to leave." And then they were like, "Yeah, please leave." And apparently, the Descendants played a free bar show later that night, which would have been insane for anybody that had tickets. But they were like, all right, so we'll refund your ticket, or you can take this more expensive free ticket to Chicago. You just have to get there. Rye Fest Chicago, which is like the big one. Mm. And this was like before it was like, now the Rye Fest is basically Van's Warped Tour, but at the time it was new, and it was like, we're going to get all these old punk bands back. So first day we saw the Addicts. The Addicts played at 2 p.m. in a parking lot. You know them?
No.
They dressed like the Clockwork Orange dudes.
I still haven't seen Clockwork Orange.
Whatever. They're a good band.
Okay.
Then, who the F? There's like a famous chick band I can't remember the name of. Whatever. So the Descendants played, NoFX played, and then the headliner for the whole show was the Stooges with Iggy Pop, and Mike Watt was playing bass.
Nice.
And that was like the most incredible thing to see, was Iggy Pop at 60 just losing it, out of his mind, crazy, played all the hits. It was like probably one of the best shows I've ever seen. It was just like, that made the whole trip. It was a 12-hour drive from Albany to Chicago just for that. Totally worth it.
Very cool. What was I gonna say? I don't know. Oh, all right. Since we're on the topic of stories at a show, you like the Casualties?
Oh yeah, I've seen them a bunch of times.
You seen them at Bogies?
Yeah.
One of my other first shows, maybe like second or third. I went to Bogies in like again 9th or 10th grade, and I think I saw someone get a set list stapled to their chest.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think the Nightbirds were playing too. I love
Yeah. No, that was an awesome show. I was like, I crowd surfed at that, and like, I don't know, I was just like crazy. Like, couldn't drink at the time, but I hit a 40 around the corner every time I went to Bogies. So I'd like run out and chug the 40 and then run back in. And like, I'm sober now. I don't know if I said that. But yeah, I ran around the corner, chugged the 40, and then I was like crowd surfing. And they had like these light things to hold lights on the ceiling, but there was no lights on them. So I was like hanging from that and like ripped a bunch of them down just from hanging from it, because it was like a low ceiling venue. Yeah, that place sucked. I definitely threw up. I saw the Queers there too, and the Business. The Business are awesome.
Nice. Well, who do you think is the most punk rock? Twon.
The most?
Yeah, like, are you a snob about punkiness? Like the ethic of or like, obviously you like DIY.
I am a snob.
I used to be a huge snob,
Yeah.
now just a little bit.
So, I hate hardcore.
Would define hardcore, because I like
Gym
hardcore.
shorts, tank tops.
Okay, that I don't know much about, so that's probably not what I'm thinking of. I like hardcore punk in the sense of like Black Flag.
Yeah.
That,
well,
like yelling, not screaming.
I love Black Flag, but I hate what Black Flag created.
Okay.
But I am more...
Minor Threat?
Yeah, I have a Minor Threat tattoo as well.
Minor Threat. Alright.
But yeah, like those two bands were like formative when I was a kid. But yeah, basically like once it got tough, I hate everything after 1989.
Okay.
And I don't know, there's just something like the definition of punk like doesn't make any sense currently, but in the 70s and early 1980 probably is when it stopped and became like an actual genre. Punk was just whatever you wanted to do. So like everything bad that could happen at a comedy open mic on a punk show,
yeah.
bill. Like just like kind of performance art and like noise that made more sense. Because like noise didn't just like happen like it is happening. I hate noise today.
Well, a lot of I feel like a lot today is more derivative, whereas earlier punk is more avant-garde, and like you said, it's like it's not really defined.
Yeah, it wasn't defined, and it's like, all right, so England we got spiky hair, New York we got leather, L.A. a lot of them were just out of their mind. But then like the ones that like rose to the top are like Sex Pistols, Ramones, and like X, and like that's like the sound of punk.
I still gotta check out
X is like one of the best bands in the world ever.
I've heard good things. I need to check them out.
But yeah, I don't know. I prefer punk as like the Sex Pistols look, I guess. So like tight pants, spiky hair, leather. Studs.
Patches.
Oh man, there's this band Who Killed Spiky Jacket from Boston. They are punk. That is what punk is. Like to a T. Like every song is about studding your leather, spiking your hair, and drinking beer. There's a song called Spike Your Hair with Beer. That's like, that's the only band of like the new era of punk that is like, that's what it is. You're doing it. But like a lot of bands are just like, I don't know, they're just not quite finding it. Like a lot of the bands now just sound like, they sound identical to each other, but they don't sound like punk used to sound. Which is why I like my band, because it's like, we kind of, like I just sing, so like I can enjoy it. But like we kind of sound like punk was supposed to sound once it became a genre, I guess. So yeah, I am snobby and hardcore sucks.
Okay.
And pop punk sucks.
Yeah, I was never into pop punk. I thought they were fake. I mean, I'm way into hip hop now, but I used to think hip hop was sell out, fake. Yeah. Pop, sell out, fake.
I don't know. I was like, pop punk sucks forever, but then like Blink-182 is kind of sick sometimes.
Yeah, they have some good songs, but yeah, it's not my style. It's more. I feel like pop punk is more harmonic, whereas like
it just became emo and sad and weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Blink-182 inspired that once they got sad, but like the first two albums are just like fast, fun skate music, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what I like more in punk is more rhythmic. You know what I mean? Two quick side questions. You ever seen SLC Punk?
Yeah.
You like it?
Yeah.
Good movie. You ever seen the video of Fear on Saturday Night Live?
Oh yeah, dude. I saw Fear in LA once.
Oh nice.
That's
awesome. One of my favorite videos,
dude,
of a live show ever.
Ian MacKaye.
He's in the crowd.
He grabs the mic. He jumps on the stage and he goes, F New York on live TV. So sick. And then they destroyed the entire 8H. That's like a merger of the worlds right there. That was all Belushi. Belushi loved Fear. And Fear put out a record. There was this movie Neighbors that I haven't seen with Belushi, and he really wanted, I think Lee Ving might be in it, he really wanted the theme song to the movie to be by Fear, and the studio was like, absolutely not. But they recorded the song, and then Fear put out the record for it like 6 years ago, and it's just like a Fear song, but they say the title of this movie Neighbors.
Well, that's cool. I like listened to a little bit of their like early stuff. I never got super deep into Fear. Definitely didn't see them live.
Okay, they're
Great
awesome.
band. Love that video though. I asked you who was the most punk rock, but specifically in the realm of comedy. Who's the most punk rock?
Who's the most punk rock in comedy?
I mean, let's go stand up because like John Belushi would have been pretty punk rock in his avenue. But stand up comedian.
Stand up comedian that is the most punk rock. I don't know, because it's not that way. It's not about the look. It's about the calling out of things.
It could be both. Doug Stanhope's pretty punk rock, and he's got a look.
I surprisingly never got into him.
He's not like my favorite, but he's great. I love him. Like his style isn't like straight up my alley.
Who's the most calling out of the bull?
Bill Hicks is like
Bill Hicks might be the most punk rock.
I guess.
Yeah.
But
today comedian that's the most punk.
But then there's that.
It's me.
Well, I was gonna ask.
Yeah,
I mean, I think you're repping around here for the comedy punks, but I mean, I feel like you said earlier, there's the West Coast punks who are just kind of crazy, and there is. I feel like there's the comedians who do a punk rock look, not necessarily.
Yeah, it's weird.
That ethos, like Zach Amico or.
Well, that dude's a punk.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not saying they're posers. I'm just saying
Yeah.
they're not like political comedians.
Oh yeah.
They're like just like crazy fun comedians. They're good. They're great comedians who aren't like. They're not punk in the sense that they're like fucking. I just swore again. Protesting something in a certain way. Not that they wouldn't do that always. Okay, I'm getting too caught up in the semantics of things.
No, that's fine.
Him or like Jamar Neighbors or or
that stuff's out of control. Like the roast battle.
Oh, when they're doing like the moves like on each other, like the wrestling moves. You don't like it?
No, I think it's funny.
Okay,
I think it's great.
Okay. Yeah, I love him and Joel Berg and like that whole punk scene, like West Coast comedy.
Is it Dave Attell? Is the answer Dave Attell?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know what?
It might be Dave Attell.
I do. Yeah, there's a strong case. Dave Attell. Shout out Ian Fidance. Who else is a punk rock comedian? There's got to be whatever. But you've toured with some punk rock comedians recently, haven't you? Could you tell me a little more about Taylor Clark, the skateboarding comedian who might not be as punk as I thought, based on how you reacted to that?
No, he's a skateboarder, but I don't think he's much of a punk. I think he's aware of punk.
Are you calling him a poser?
No,
I'm not trying. Okay.
Nah, he wears like big pants and little shirts, you know, like.
That's not punk rock?
No.
Are you calling me not punk rock right now? I mean, these aren't big, but like...
Yeah, well, he wears just clothes that fit him, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, he's funny. That was fun. We went on tour. We went from Albany to Tampa to do the opening night show for the Tampa Pro skateboarding competition.
Very cool.
So we entertained a bunch of professional skateboarders.
Did you see any like insane tricks or like?
Yeah, there's this dude Jamie Foy. I think he won the whole thing maybe, but he won best trick at least. That was like the best trick contest was crazy. It was just like a bunch of grown men throwing each other down, or not each other, but throwing themselves down a rail, just like losing it. And it was like hot and like raining 'cause it was Florida, and it was just like nuts. But like down the coast, we met all kinds of skaters and comics and what have you. But it was fun. It's a ton of fun.
That's cool. Is that your first comedy tour?
Yeah. So I went on a band tour once, but it wasn't even my band.
Were you like a roadie or okay?
For my bandmates' other band, Mystery Girl. Okay. Mystery Girl's sick. They're like Albany.
Shout out Mystery Girl.
Yeah, they're playing F.U. We Rule OK in Colorado this week. All right,
Colorado listeners, check in.
I was just talking. I don't know.
No, yeah, Mr. Girl's great. What else was I gonna say? I don't know. I forgot where we're going with that. So one thing I wonder about comedy in general, but especially within the comedy scene, is the role of meanness, like you said, like bluntness before is a valuable thing to young comedians. Roasting is a common thing. People have to be prepared to have their feelings hurt. How do you think that people are prepared for that coming to comedy shows, or do you think people are still pretty sensitive to things like that? Do you think I'm a mean comedian? Do you think I offend people often without realizing it?
No, you're the self-proclaimed best roaster in Albany.
I've never said it.
I'm pretty sure you said it.
No.
Didn't you say it? You were trying to be the roast guy.
I roast people like every set, but I don't think I've ever said that.
It's funny if it's just us. So like basically you're doing what we do off stage, on stage, which is weird. It's funny if there's not an audience, but when there is an audience, people are laughing, but it's just the comics, and there's a very confused audience. They're like, who is this he's talking about? And like that part of it is really funny to me. Don't stop doing it.
I'll keep doing it. I don't care.
But yeah, it's just
but
like...
you're right.
You're just like calling out people that aren't even in the room anymore.
Well, see, you've called me out on that before when I definitely still do it, but I was being way too... I was making it less feel like crowd work and make it seem like it was something the audience might not even catch on to if they didn't know who I was talking about.
Yeah.
So I do try to be mindful of making it a little more obvious to them, but you're still very right.
I do it all the time, and like I don't write anything ahead of time really, and then maybe I'll roast like a couple people before me, just so like the audience is aware of who they are.
Yeah.
So like they're in on the joke too. But yeah, I don't know, roasting is important. Some people aren't ready for it, and like some people think I'm being too mean if it's somebody that isn't ready for it. But it's just like roasting is welcoming. It's acknowledging you. I could ignore you.
It's not malicious. Yeah.
No, I could ignore you completely, and that would be mean. Or I could roast you, which is like, hey, I'm talking to you. We can talk.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there any like particular roasts you can think of where you were like recently, like, oh, like that was a little far. Like this guy is.
Yeah. So there's like some guy.
Even me, if I've.
Not you. No, there's some guy that showed up, and he was like, when he got on stage, he was like, well, I haven't done stand-up in 3 years. And I was like, I don't even remember you from before the pandemic. But okay. And then he told this really long, boring story about masturbating. And it wasn't funny at all. And then I roasted him. And then somebody was like, that's mean. And I was like, I guess it's mean. He looks like a nerd. But is it only mean because he looks like a nerd? Is that the reason? Because he's got like a face that you feel bad for.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as mean if he was really jacked and handsome.
Yeah, if it was like a hot guy, I could roast him fine. But he like looked just like a nerdy dude. So like I'm not allowed to roast him.
He was just talking about masturbating.
Yeah, and like it wasn't funny.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there was like a bit of that like nervousness around how things could be received when I was like thinking about doing comedy, and then just starting to go to a few mics. And again, and like I've only done, I don't know, like a little over 100 sets. Like I suck. But the feeling I got early on was more like oh, what are people gonna think when I say this or that? And I feel like now it's like I like being made fun of. I'm comfortable bombing in front of, open mics. Well, like, I'm sure it's gonna suck when I bomb more in front of like a bigger thing.
Yeah, if you're getting paid to bomb, that feels bad.
Oh yeah.
But basically, like that's the training. The training is, all right, I'm gonna go talk in front of a bunch of people that I don't know, and then over the span of like the first 3 months, you know every person there. So basically, it's just like work on my public speaking as well as my jokes. And some of the jokes don't translate to real crowds, which is like why we're lucky sometimes when real people show up to watch these open mics, because it's just practice for shows. They don't mean anything. Like nothing that we're doing matters until we start getting like steady work for it. And like I barely get steady. Like I get paid sometimes, but those shows like kind of matter, and it's just like getting over the fear of bombing, because you will.
Yeah.
Accepting the bomb.
Yeah.
But then like also just like confidence. If you're not confident, they're not gonna like you. So you need to build confidence talking in front of these people that you know, so you can talk in front of people that you don't know.
Yeah. I do love that process. Do you think it's accurate when people describe comedians as like gluttons for punishment? Like they like, or I don't know, saying that they're like a lot of comedians have issues or like.
Yeah, there's like a lot of people that have issues that do comedy. Some of them are comedians and some of them will quit.
Yeah.
But I don't think that anybody's going out like wanting to feel bad.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I guess more so like seeking approval, but I guess glutton for punishment is a little extreme.
No.
That's a little harsh work.
Seeking approval is definitely key, but then it's like seeking approval and then not like, don't be weird about it. Like once you're like approved, I guess, don't be like, oh my god, thanks for accepting me.
Oh yeah.
It's just like, yeah, I don't know, now I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It's like just like reaching another stone, or what is the reaching another
level up
block, reaching another
Delta platinum, Delta diamond,
reaching a new
medallion,
reaching for something funny. I'm not finding it. That's
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. The reason I asked mainly about being a glutton for punishment, I was wondering if being in comedy, going through the bombs and going through meeting other people in the business, who's the most famous person who's ever made you feel sad or embarrassed or like was just not what you wanted them to be, like
in real life?
Yeah.
Famous person.
Like don't meet your heroes kind of moment, like
don't meet my heroes. Who have I met? I don't know. Whenever I've met someone famous, I kind of embarrass myself because I get all flustered and nervous. So I've been like very aware not to do that. Like I met Bam Margera when I was like 13, and I meant to tell him that I loved his skateboarding, but I was like, I love you, man, you're awesome. And I was like, ugh, that's weird.
Strong.
And then I met Henry Rollins when I was 18, and I was like, I rambled at him. Did not make a lick of sense. Didn't say anything that made sense. He signed my book and I left. So like,
hey man, at least you weren't a fan of Kevin Spacey back then.
Yeah, right. Well, I guess it's not what I found in like famous people that I didn't like. It's what I found in myself around them that I don't like.
I've definitely had those moments like where I said too much. I went to Kill Tony once, and I had messaged the band leader, John Dees, on Instagram about the radio show, and he like we had talked a little bit about that, but like I knew him over Instagram, and he like told me like if I came to the show, say hi. But he had a gig the show I went to, so he like quickly he saw me. Like, he was loading out right after it ended, and he saw me. He was like, oh, hey, what's up, man? I gotta go, got a gig. And left. And then I was like, I guess I should try to say hi to band members. And then I was just, like, hovering awkwardly, and I was like, what am I doing right now? Like, I feel like it's I don't know. I feel like that whole kind of thing, it's like you need to be aware of yourself and not, hype yourself up to some weird interaction.
Yeah, I had no expectation because I didn't even think I was going to talk to this dude, but I did like a bringer show, and Michael Rappaport was headlining on it, and like I didn't expect to talk to him, but he's pretty famous. He's a pretty famous comic. And he came out front, and I was just standing with another guy, and he was like, how were your sets, guys? Were they good? Huh? How was the crowd? Good? Yeah? I'm sure you guys did great. You guys look nice. And I was like, oh, this isn't like the mean Twitter guy that he acts like all, you know what I mean? So
I don't know his Twitter, but...
Yeah, well, that's his whole thing, is like he's just like fighting with people on Twitter about sports, I think. So I don't really know too much about him. I watched a sitcom when I was a kid, The War at Home. But yeah, I was like expecting him to be like, I don't need to talk to these idiots. But he was like, how are the sets, guys? Was it good? Yeah? He was like a nice guy.
That's cool.
So that was unexpected, I guess.
Good for you, Michael Rappaport. Keep it up. Shout out to Michael Rappaport. Well, yeah, man. I don't know if I what else I really wanted to touch on? We should wrap it up soon because I do have to edit this together for tomorrow. But how are things going in the Albany comedy scene? And do you have any other things that you would like to plug?
Bad.
Oh no!
Nobody's coming to the shows. Well, people are coming to some shows, but I've been trying to do this contest at Madison Theater every other Friday. And the last one, nobody came. Except for my mom.
But I thought you have to have 2 people.
Yeah, well, the comics weren't bringing people, which is like part of the problem. So like we handpicked some comics to hopefully make it a funnier show, but they didn't bring anybody with them, which was like not the point. It's like a bringer, but it's like a nice bringer. Nobody's charging their friends to come. It's just like we want the crowd there, you know. So like bring some people that you know.
Well, yeah, it's as much as it's nice to do something like that, just get more stage time. It's not just stage time. You have to participate and bring people.
Yeah, because if there's no audience, then every comic is going to give up in the middle of every bit they try, like they did. It was just like super embarrassing. Shouldn't have existed as a show, but the shows could be good. They used to be good. Used to fill out the 60-seat room every other Friday.
Oh yeah, Madison Theater's great. I love the shows.
It just hasn't been happening.
So you're telling me that at the Madison Theater, people can see live comedy every Wednesday night and every second and fourth Friday of the month?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Wow, at the Madison Theater in Albany?
Madison Theater in Albany, New York.
Where else can they hear comedy every week?
Mostly just there. No. There's McCaddy's in Troy has the open mic.
Monday nights.
Tuesdays at Susie's in Albany. Wednesday, Madison. Thursday, Lark Tavern in Albany. Friday is every other Friday at Madison, but then there's Comedy Works, which is an hour away, and the owner sucks, so don't go there. But yeah, then there's like shows that happen all the time too. There's shows at 217. There's other shows at Madison that I don't have anything to do with. There's all kinds of stuff, and nobody's coming out. They should come out. It sucks.
Yeah. Let's go, Albany. Let's go.
You suck.
Come on. See, it's bad to clap because the mic's going to clip if I clap.
I don't know.
But come on, Albany.
Yeah. You suck, Albany.
Like
Where
that.
are you?
I didn't even mean to stumble onto those words, to that turn of phrase clip. If I clap, I like that. I'm surprised I said it right. I said it and then I was like, I don't think I said that right, and I think I said it right. Right?
Yeah, you said it right.
Yeah, you tell me. You got any more like advice for me as far as professionally what you think? If you want to be blunt at me, because I do appreciate it when you tell me something I'm doing wrong.
On stage with you, I'd say talk faster.
Faster, okay. Yeah, I try to hype myself up, and I feel like I've been out of my like consistency lately, so I don't always think to like hype myself up to speed.
Because like I talk pretty slow, but I don't know. There's something, you have like a different kind of voice than me. You have a higher voice, I think, than I do. So like my slow talk is like, yeah, that makes sense. But then your slow talk is kind of like, I don't even want to wait for this. You know what I mean?
Okay.
No offense.
Well, I'll also like on a new bit, I'll sometimes be thinking too much, and that's slowing me down a lot. Sometimes I'm leaving pauses because I just have to remember where I'm going, and I'm strengthening my memory and all, but I know I can't be doing that. So
yeah,
that's
and then,
helpful.
Like, roast the audience, I guess, instead of roasting comics that they don't know.
Yeah.
Just like try to do some on the spot roasts instead of like pre-written, because pre-written roasts,
I think of them before I go up.
Yeah.
That's occasionally one will come to me when I'm up there, but that I'm not good at.
Yeah, because there's like in art you need to not recite, but sometimes it sounds like you're reciting. Sometimes it sounds like everybody has this problem, but that's like a big hump to get over. Is like, don't sound like you're reciting. Try to sound like you're just talking to the audience.
Yeah. Okay. What else was I gonna say? I don't remember. Well, thank you for doing this, Twon.
Yeah.
You have anything else?
Having me.
Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Facebook.
If you want to follow me, it's at Twonage, TWONAGE on Venmo.
Nice.
And Instagram and TikTok.
Nice. All right. Well, that's the show. Thank you.
All right.